Hi, this is Terry.
And I'm Jeff. This is SMARK versus Mark.
Alright, we're going to talk about AW and all the shit that's going on with them. So, okay, yeah, we know he got fired over the Kobe Bryant rape joke. Now he's on his Twitter rampage, and then just found out today that his Twitter account got suspended because he was doing quite a bit of bashing on WWE.
I thought he had two Twitter accounts, is almost what it looked like.
Maybe. I imagine, because I think what they do is they got like the WWE official Twitter account, and I think that's the one that got suspended.
Yeah, because there was an AW primetime player one.
It was like AW Promotions or some shit.
Yeah.
I think. That other one, if he does have two, I wouldn't be surprised if WWE was able to get that one suspended too.
You can't use that name.
Well, can't use that name, and they hold such a high standing in Twitter that I'm sure that I think I've heard that they've actually had people pulled, like other like ex-employees.
I'm surprised as much as they use it.
Yeah. Your thoughts though on him getting shit canned?
I hate that he got shit canned, and I think it's typical WWE BS.
Do you think it's because he's black?
No.
Oh.
I think it's because I think it's a tie between the Kobe comment and it just with this PC nation we are now, and you got the people that get butthurt over the stupidest things and make something that's not even supposed to be. I never saw the joke as a rape joke. I thought it was about the subject. Kobe had issues in a Colorado hotel. He made a comment about it. He didn't say nothing per se about raping, but then he made a comment where he was talking about support Linda. And so, the politics with her running for the Senate, it's like, uh-oh, this guy's got heat right now outside of our company. The last thing I want is him saying, yeah, go for me, because that's all they're doing. Linda's opponents are throwing off WWE issues on her. They got a Moms Against wrestling group that's attacking her right now. Or saying, how can a woman that's made a business, or made a living, made millions off of using individuals, sit there and say she can make this world a better place? I think it's just PC bullcrap.
Well, and let's put it in WWE's defense. They were very clear and very open that they were going through a change in format and what they were doing for their programming, and that change was going to be PG. So whether we disagree with that or not, or like it, and I think we both are not in favor of a PG product, if you go off on a tangent that is not PG, and you're not in that realm of being John Cena or CM Punk, then wouldn't you expect ramifications from it? Because I don't understand. I don't understand why he thought that would work, why that would go over.
I think it did go over, and I think it did work.
It did, which makes me wonder. It strikes me as WWE going, okay, we want our cake and we want to eat it too. I.e., we want to have somebody say some edgy shit, and then we can go and be like, that was bad, that was, we do not condone that, and then go like, okay, your turn, say something edgy, and then we'll just downplay it later and say we're, cutting your pay or some blah 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 bullshit just for the attention's sake, so that they can get something edgy out, and then they can say like, oh, we take full accountability and we are sorry, we're gonna keep this from happening again.
Yeah.
But now I don't believe that because they actually fired the guy.
If that's the route they want to be and want to stay, then that's exactly what they have to do, because you're playing the game. And we all know that the way that stuff works is one person has an agenda, they'll say they have an agenda to get support from another group to make them get where they need to go. It has nothing to do with what's right or what's wrong, or what I believe, or what they believe. It's all bullcrap. But in the wrestling world, I think it's very bad, and I think it hurts where they could go and what they want to do, and it's a perfect example of why WWE, their programming this decade has been so half-ass and frankly not super entertaining. There's nothing that sticks out in the last 12 years that you say that was awesome.
Okay, but what the fuck's wrong with him to say that? I mean, if he wasn't given direction to say it, why would he say something like that?
It was funny.
Well, I mean, this is a very scripted show at this point, and they give you a little bit of room to improv. Why go out on a limb and say something like that you know could get you in serious trouble? Especially now that he's just getting back on TV. It's so risky and reckless.
Yeah.
I mean, that's initially, like I said, I thought maybe, there was some people that was like, hey, go say it. And then they could, say, oh, that was bad later, showing that they're fired him, and then he's fired, and he isn't saying, hey, Michael Hayes told me to say this. Makes me think he was just being a fucking idiot. I mean, you would have to be stupid to do that. You couldn't do that in any other job where they have requirements on speech. Yeah. And what you can say in topics. That's just reckless.
That's what makes it so frustrating. I mean, if that's honestly what went down, and it was one of those things where he was trying to get his spot and make a name for himself, then yeah, that was bad timing, and that was
poor judgment.
Yeah.
And why would you, now in their defense, why would you want someone on TV, on live TV, that could do something like that? You're investing millions into this thing. Might not look like it, but I mean, millions of dollars are getting invested into his bullshit. Why would you put it on a chance for someone who's just going to say something stupid, who doesn't even have the seniority level to go out and pull that off, or you can go John Cena, you got to watch it, because I mean, we know that they'll push it. Come last WrestleMania, they were pushing it, and they were saying shit and ass and stuff and talking all sorts of stuff, but that was the top tier guys. This guy's at the bottom. This guy just got scraped out of NXT.
I can't defend that behavior. Mm-hmm. I understand it, and that's the way it is, but I won't support it. I won't stand by it, and I won't say it's right because it's messed up. It's
on
wrong.
WWE or
it's
AW?
Wrong to take the small fish and squash them to benefit yourself.
I don't think
people loved what he said. People didn't care what he said. I don't honestly believe that there's anybody out there that says, I can't believe he just said that. This is the same bull crap that they pulled with the Janet Jackson thing.
So, and I would say I think it was something that all of a sudden grabbed a lot of attention, made me actually give a fuck about this guy. Because I was just and then I'm okay, he's talking during the match. That's kind of different, but I hate the fucking tag team that he's managing. And in fact, I fast forwarded through that whole match, and then it was after that I heard, I was like, what? And that grabbed my attention, and I was like, well, what's he going to do next time? I mean, he got himself over. That's what wrestling used to be. You got to, take things into your own hands and do something.
So simple. It's the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's
not a right or wrong answer.
Well, that's the way professional wrestling works. That's not the way
I think
WWE
it just has
works.
a hell of a lot more to do with the campaign issue than it does with anything else. I think in other situations, I think Vince would stand by what's going on. He did that. He did that before. The networks can show whatever the hell they want. It's a paid product. They can sit there and swear. They can have more sexuality and everything on there. That's how they got away with it with the Attitude Era. It's just a matter of what they'll let them get away with. And right now, they got to stay cookie cutter because they feel anything negative is going to make Linda look negative.
Okay. Let's remove the politics side of it, the Linda McMahon running for office thing. You're a billion-dollar company, and you allow someone to just kind of fly off the handle on live TV who's essentially being a representative of your company. And they say some crazy shit, and maybe it gets over, but it offends a lot of people. And now fucking Tyler Rex all of a sudden decides, well, hey, I'm going to say something. And then after that, Bo Rotundo says is going to go out and say something crazy. You probably would want to draw a line, and if you were not happy with it, what AW said, most businesses would have to say, well, I got to put a stop to this, and I got to send a message saying that this is not appropriate. Otherwise, it's just going to get out of control. Do you think WWE would... I mean, to put yourself into Vince's shoes, you got to put a stop to something. Can you blame him for going the route that he did and firing AW? Especially, and afterwards, he's just on Twitter fucking bashing everything.
He's pissed off.
Yeah, he's pissed off.
I'd probably,
Let alone,
I may not
and you know what?
result
And
to
you know
that
what?
level,
And then
but
on top of it, he's bashing the company that he works for on a company media tool.
well, it's his given right. He was pissed off. He probably handled it.
Well, it's not his given right if he's using company property and company accounts.
You know, he's trying. I guess he's trying to stay on top of the ball. The guy's obviously not a. And you know, he's a pretty intelligent guy.
I don't think he really owns a promotion company.
I'm talking about as far as
Oh.
staying ahead of the ball. He's like, okay, screw you. You're going to fire me? Okay, well, while I can, I'm going to sit here and tell you what I think. And it got out, and he may be stopped now, but he took advantage of a situation because he was pissed off. Yeah, it wasn't mature or the right thing to do or anything like that. But put yourself in that position. You get wrongfully fired for doing something that you're kind of supposed to do. And then how are you going to handle that?
I'm not going to disagree that in the world of professional wrestling that's something you do, but I don't think that's something you do in WWE.
Okay, so
Because I'm going to say like they're working under a different playbook than any other wrestling promotion in the world. That shit wouldn't happen in AAA or New Japan or fucking Stampede.
It doesn't never be heard about.
Or even any little mom and pop indie place in the country. That shit'll go over. With the exception of maybe Chikara, which does more of a PG related thing, and there would be no place for that type of joke there. It wouldn't make any sense. But in the WWE, it is literally corporate wrestling. You have rules that you got to go by. WCW was too, but they were just not organized enough to monitor any of that shit.
That's the route it keeps going. I think I'm going to be falling down your sail here not too long because it pisses me off.
It is not professional wrestling.
It is a touchy subject to me.
It is pop wrestling as far as I'm concerned at this point. I have no faith in WWE really being able to legitimately come up with something that is groundbreaking in professional wrestling at this point. Okay, let's talk about what WWE has ultimately done to destroy what professional wrestling is, or was. They basically won. I don't even know if I want to call it the wrestling war, but they maneuvered everything, and everything else in the wrestling world came down to where there became the one big show in town, and the end result, maybe less than great. We probably would agree.
Very much below par.
Yeah, it's brought below par. And a lot of people would say, well, there's no competition, blah, blah, blah. I think what it is it's just gotten to where there's such a large corporate infrastructure that they got so big that left them with so many responsibilities that now they can't really take too many chances.
There's no way they can possibly feed the hunger of all these various levels of fan. What you're saying, just the rage, they're really pushing towards the kids right now to bring up a new generation of fans, but at the same time, you got these longtime fans and they're early to upper, let's go 40, that remember what they saw and what they liked and what got them hooked, and maybe they came on, when they're in their 20s or when they're teenagers, and now you get this watered down version, and they're basically, unless they do what the crazies like you do and watch these internet pay-per-views, etc., you're force fed. It's like you got a baby in a high chair and you got mom with the spoon in the airplane. You're going to eat it one way or another, even though you don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, if you view it as there's only one show in town, then it's what you got, and that's what kids and newer fans are coming in as they don't know another, way of wrestling, and
what you see is what you get.
What they put on is almost not wrestling.
It's not. They have really fallen into the soap opera aspect of it, and I don't mean to jump off the subject here, but I kind of put this scenario into perspective where you have the old school guys that reemerge and they do shoot interviews and talk about how guys don't pay their dues anymore. They see a guy with a beautiful body in the gym and say, "We're going to make you a star," like Batista, a guy who never really quite became as good as he could have been, but he had the look, so it worked. There's these guys still aren't. They still don't got their union protection stuff. They get paid enough money where they can take care of themselves so they can afford not to work, where the guys back when couldn't. I think it's more or less a way that they protect the talent, because guys are working older and older, and they're not getting as broke down, where the guys that me grew up watching, half of them have died.
Yeah. It's...
I think it's a liability issue almost, where they're protecting these guys. They don't have to do the falls that guys like Mick Foley did to make a name for himself. They don't have to do that.
I mean, WWE is a marketing machine, and they can take someone and market them how they want to market them. And if they can market them around not having to take falls or do crazy stuff and be successful, then I guess all the power to them. But it's still kind of... I mean, I really, really want to refer to WWE as pop wrestling. It's not... I mean, it is the, radio friendly...
They're going to tell us what to like.
Yeah, they're going to tell us what to like. It's the most... I mean, if you can get your grandma and your mom to sit down and watch it after church or whatever the fuck it is you do with your family, if it becomes a family activity, that's that. If you want what professional wrestling was, then you look towards the indies. And they're
guys that are hungry.
Guys that are hungry, guys that have worked. And these are guys, oftentimes, they don't have the bodybuilder thing going for them. Some of them do. A lot of them don't. But they have other things. They have talent. A lot of them...
They don't have steroids.
I mean, some of them do. But...
It's not the popular choice like it was.
Yeah, I feel like it's too easy to just accuse steroids.
I mean,
for things.
where in the 80s would a guy like CM Punk ever work? I'm straight edge. I'm clean.
No, he'd been a jobber at best.
Yeah,
he would have been a jobber in like fucking NWA somewhere.
Exactly.
I could see
there
him,
would be no place for him.
I could see him being like the George South kind of guy, where he'd be, best case, Ric Flair would be like, "Oh, I want him to be my jobber whenever I come to your area." He
looks like the local. He looks like the local jobber for Ryback, except with custom gear.
Yeah, I mean, and you take that away, you're ruining, or you're just writing off the fact that the guy can super work. He's great on the mic. Really
he's real.
Creative. He's smart. He's real. I mean, he tapped in so good last year to the I'm everyman aspect.
That's where I fed in and was very accepting of the smaller guys back in the early 90s when they started pushing those guys, because you were able to relate more to them. They seemed more normal. Once the Hogan facade went away, and it didn't take very long, once people caught on, I thought it was very important. That's part of what made Austin so popular. People were able to relate to that.
Yeah. It became less cartoony.
Yep.
Because you needed something more real to grasp.
And the best, and they tell you hear it over and over again, the best wrestlers are the guys that play someone that's maybe a more exaggerated version of themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think that's exactly what Punk is. Punk's a complete rebel in the industry.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of people saying that this was all, kind of part of Punk's thing, and that he's not really being a rebel, he's just positioning himself. I'm inclined to probably agree with that. He's just smart about it.
Maybe. Yeah. But if that's the case, then it works.
Yeah. And I think it's a lot of that stems from that's kind of what he did in the indies with the smaller things, is he was able to position himself in the top spots.
Yeah, it's
taking and working his way.
It's very easy to create that whole thing, that whole image, with all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And if you look at like WWE's hiring practices too, as of late, they're really, really heavily turning to the indies and bringing people in. And I think it's a plus because these are the people that are actually the workers.
Well, they're stooging off TNA, and they see that it's actually working. People are excited about these guys that are mass media wise no names, but to people that actually care about the industry, they know who they are.
Now, why is it? This I was wrapping my brain around just a little bit ago. why is it TNA can pull frickin' frack out of the indies and all of a sudden it's exciting and you're like, what is this guy gonna do? WWE does it and you're like, who the fuck is this guy? What is it? Why do I have that feeling? Am I alone on that feeling, or is this something that everybody else is
They
kind of
definitely
feeling?
present it a little bit differently, but I think Vince has a passion to squash anything that's not his.
Hmm.
He did it when he took Town from WCW.
Hmm.
He squashed the guys. He makes them come in like they're this big deal,
Hmm.
and then he basically puts them down to a lower level to his succeeding stars, and that makes his whole thing in his head bigger than it really is, when in actuality, I mean, I think he's brain dead, because I think he's failed miserably on several opportunities because of that.
Would you go so far as to say that WWE is not good at making stars?
Yeah, I think Vince takes too much credit for everything. I mean, how many years did him and Hogan fight over that? I created Hulkamania, I created WrestleMania. You know, it's like just that power struggle. Vince, the only thing he stands by is nobody is bigger than the machine. And that's where Hogan kind of went wrong, because Hogan has a bigger ego than anybody needs. But Vince definitely takes too much credit for what he says. He basically says, I can make you, I can break you.
Okay. Do you fall into that? Well, that they are professional wrestling.
No, not no more.
Okay. Are you pushing washing your hands with them?
I think I'm just.
You know what? You know what WWE is to me? WWE to me is the drunk girlfriend who embarrasses me all the time, but I just don't have it in me to like dump her. That's what WWE is. It's like a semi-abusive relationship.
I gotta eat, Terry.
I know.
I gotta. I give him too much credit probably, but I guess I just stand of faith that eventually something's gonna happen. But since the Monday Night Wars, every opportunity he has had, and I'll point out three specific things. One was starting when the WCW did go away, and he just totally blew that, like I said, where he squashed the talent that he did have. Two would be Cena. He got Cena hot and then turned him into Hulkamania. Screw that. And then also more recently, the Nexus angle. What the fuck was that? That could have been awesome.
Yeah.
But they made it awesome and then just made it so stereotypical.
Well, I think that's where they don't want to. They don't want to take too big of risks. I mean, it's they'll take it.
But they didn't get heat for firing Bryan. They realized they had to bring him back. Like when he did what he did.
Yeah.
Bryan went totally excessive.
Oh, he
and just
fake
went crazy.
He fake choked a guy.
Yeah, was it the micro thing?
It was a tie. It was
a-
was it Justin Roberts?
I think it was the introduction guy.
Yeah, it was like fake choked him with a tie.
But they got rid of him. They said, "Whoa, no."
Yeah.
But what? Bryan was gone maybe a month.
Now why? Is there something wrong with me that thinks that it was a big deal that it looked like Big Show was simulating raping Santino on SmackDown a few months ago?
AW apparently thinks so.
I guess so. I mean, maybe I'm just so demented that I'm the only person that sees that it looked like Big Show was raping Santino.
I don't think it caught on as normal, because I showed that photo to several people, and they're like, "Whoa, I didn't notice that."
Yeah.
But then I get,
And you showed the video of it. He fucking donkey punches him at the end.
dude, Santino looked like his ass hurt.
Yeah.
It didn't get as much recognition though. I mean,
He is-
to this day, I still see
shows a weapon of mass
images
destruction.
of Hogan and Warrior doing their test of strength,
Yeah.
and Hogan's overpowering Warrior, and these guys have like, oh, it just looks like he's doing some super dick suck on the guy.
Yeah.
And to this day, that still shows up. And what? God, that was 19 years ago.
Yeah.
I guess nobody wants to see Big Show in the back.
There's a weapon of mass destruction.
Yes.
What the fuck are we talking about? that they wouldn't take chances.
That was totally accidental.
Oh, the Big Show?
Yes. That's
No,
totally...
that was not. That there was no way. That
But
was
you were
accidental.
onto something with that Santino pregnant idea.
That would have been great.
That would have been amazing.
I should explain. I wanted to do a thing where it was going to be the aftermath of it was going to be Santino claiming that he was pregnant afterwards, and he would keep pushing it to the point where Big Show, because Big Show would be like walking down the hallway, and he'd see Santino, and he'd like fake punch him, and Santino would be like, "You can't do it, you no good son of a gun, I'm pregnant," or some shit like that. And he'd be like, "Wait, what?" And he'd be so confused that he would just like move on. And then like at every turn, Santino is just reminding him that he's pregnant. And it would get to the point where Big Show would just lose track and think that he is really pregnant.
That could have gone on forever.
Could have gone on forever. And then like accelerated, like he's walking around with a belly and stuff. And
Are we in agreement that Big Show's character is virtually useless outside of the goofy? I'm a big stupid giant guy because I liked Big Show when he feuded with Eddie, but the best part of it was Eddie giving him the bad burrito. You know, Big Show has always been a goof. They've washed him down and brought him up, brought him down so many damn times. Just keep him as the big powerhouse. You know, when you want him to be dominant, have him come down and do something like when he interferes in the match or something. But don't do this crap that they've been doing with Kane for the last 10 years where he's dominant, then he's a jobber. He's dominant, then he's a jobber. Because that building up talent with those guys, it's so impractical to me.
Would you agree with me that the best thing the Big Show's done since he went to the WWE was that chunk of time that he took off?
The OVW period?
No, not the OVW, but when he took off time and then he came back and did the Floyd Merriweather thing. Just because he would have been gone for about a year and a half. No, I'll say this because he came back and he was leaner, he was in better shape, and it was actually exciting. And the reason why I think it was exciting was because we hadn't seen him forever.
Yeah.
And he came back and he looked better than when he left. Because what Big Show is at his core, that's what kills me with what he's doing with Cena. At his core, he's an attraction. He's a special attraction. You start putting him in too many stories, you overexpose him, he loses his flair, his appeal, his mystique. It just goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been gone for a while with him.
I think that's the separation between Big Show and Andre, because I think I think Big Show is far superior to what Andre ever was. Andre, every time I ever saw him, he always looked broken down. But Andre was in a period where the spectacle was enough. Where all of a sudden you got this new giant that comes in the mid-90s and starts doing drop kicks off the top rope, and you're like, holy shit.
Well, Andre came in at a time where he wasn't... I mean, everybody knows him from the WWF, but he wasn't just in the WWF.
Yes.
He went everywhere.
Characters cannot be watered down that period because they traded.
Yeah, he went everywhere. So he would go to the WWF, and then he would just go wherever Ma and Pa. He was only on TV a month or two out of the year.
Yep.
And he would go wherever the fuck. And then he'd go to Japan. And he'd come back. And then he'd go to Europe, and he'd come back. And he never got overexposed.
Yeah.
Big Show is beyond overexposed.
He's been overexposed, and he's been around. It does not seem... Sometimes I find it hard to believe he's been around since '95. I'm like, really? This guy was like a little kid when he came in.
Mm-hmm.
A big kid when he came in. That just takes us back to what we were talking about with Vince more or less conquering the wrestling industry. He one by one took these companies when he took over his dad's spot and bought them out and took the talent. And it lasted for a really, really long time. And in doing so, obviously he had so much talent. That also helped slowly build up the NWA, which became WCW. And then that whole Monday Night War thing came. But that was only going to last for so long with the rivalry that was going on there. Somebody had to go. But now Vince has nobody. TNA's never going to compete. I think it's safe to say they're never going to compete. They do not have enough money to do what they need to do to where it's going to catch on to compete with Vince, to make Vince have to, take that chance like you're saying. Vince doesn't have to take a chance. He's going to feed you Cheerios and he's going to tell you it's Frosted Flakes. And you're going to like it. Because that's all there is.
I think the only way TNA is going to compete is if WWE's ratings drop so bad that they're comparable to TNA's. TNA's are not going to go up that much. Theirs could feasibly drop.
No. They can't even step out of Florida properly yet. They try and it fails miserably. They're already giving out tickets.
They did. They're doing Bound for Glory in Phoenix this year.
Yeah,
and they sent Rob Van Dam down for like the opening day ticket sales, and he was going to do the meet and greet. And did you hear how many people showed up? 20. Yay! 20 people came down to see
the one unique thing. And I've been to the house shows of TNA when they come into our area. I'm going to tell you, and you can agree with me or not disagree with me. They are a better product.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a better show. You know, you're not going to get your money's worth outside of the wrestling because they just don't got the production work, the capabilities that WWE can do. But right now the show for the last month has been better.
Oh, I'd say the last 4.
But if they can stick to their guns like they're doing right now and keep, you know, keep to their storylines, because that's always been TNA's problem, is that they've jumped around so much. It's like, I don't know how many times Kurt Angle's had a face heel change in the few years he's been there, but there's no consistency, and then stories disappear. If they can just stick to it, I mean, that alone, I think, supports that they're more entertaining right now. But I was gonna say, sorry, with the house shows, that's a damn good show what they did. I saw a great match with guys I could have cared less to see, and then guys I did care to see. It was great. And the best thing is that because they know, I said I bought a front row seat for $50 for God's sakes. I spent $4.75 to go to Raw front row. For an extra $20, they had a meet and greet where they have all the performers stand outside of tables, and you can actually meet these people, get up close to them, and that's great for the kids. That's great for everybody, because who the hell doesn't want to meet wrestlers?
Yeah. Now, how much of WWE's continued rough success is just based on its production value alone?
All of it.
So, at what point do you just get people to go, hey, you know what, the fucking Titantron's not the be-all, end-all of a wrestling show? At what point do you go, I don't need pyrotechnics? This is the thing. I feel like by the end of the 90s, early 2000s, everything was wiped out, wrestling-wise. Wrestling world was just cleared away. At the end of the day, all there was overinflated production, a bunch of half-assed trained wrestlers. The really good wrestlers, a bunch of them died, or they had drug problems.
There was no old school left in it.
There was nothing left. There was nothing left really but Triple H and Kevin Nash at the end of the day, and Hulk Hogan.
Undertaker,
yeah. I mean, they scorched the earth and they left nothing behind. ECW even raised the bar too high, and contributed to the things like concussions and brain damage and drug addictions and suicide.
And I think that I was never big on
ECW.
ECW.
Yeah, WCW raised the bar too high for what people could get paid for doing nothing. And WWE raised the bar too high for production value that's unnecessary.
Well, WCW just they basically put their foot in their mouth. Right. They gave too much power.
But at the end of it, there was nothing left.
No.
And this left, because then you had a market that was flooded with people that were unemployed. They had nowhere to go. And the vast majority of them, they were WCW guys, they were power plant guys, and they went, well, fuck it, I got nothing else to do. I'll go do something else. I don't need wrestling. There weren't like real wrestler people out there. Or they made enough that they were like, fuck it. They were like Bagwell or someone. They made millions for doing little. They didn't have to do it anymore. Or they just waited out their contracts. There became nothing left. And then at the same time, there was nobody left to teach on the indie scene, or for that matter, a real solid indie scene, for anybody to really groom up. So there's been this whole generation last decade that has worked and come from virtually nothing. The WWE has just passed on. And they're just now acquiring these guys. And I'll put Punk and Bryan into that category. Those were those guys. Over the last decade, that they were just passed on because they were too small, or they weren't built enough, or they weren't maybe the best talkers. But if you watch them on the shows that they put on in gyms, bingo halls, all that shit, far and away more entertaining. A fraction of what you would pay to go to see Raw. And you will get more than your money's worth. And you know what? You'll have a good seat. And you'll be with a crowd that's passionate and really into it. Is that not more beneficial than the pyro and the lighting and Sin Cara blue light and trampoline spectacle?
To the legitimate fan, yeah, I don't think they need these big, overblowing, crazy setups and pyrotechnics and everything like that. I completely agree with the sense that there's no more wrestling guys left. These guys are movie stars. They're celebrities. I never considered guys back when. I never considered them celebrities. You know, how many, you go up to 10 people and you say Austin 316, you get flipped off. You smell the rocks cooking, you get flipped off. You say you can't see me or I'm the best in the world, nobody knows what the fuck that means.
I think it's hockey related.
I think with the sense of all the guys, whether retired or they passed on, I think that behind the scenes there's that big lack of the old school presence. A guy like Roddy, a guy like Dusty, where these guys just are around to remind these guys what it's about. I mean, I really think people like Punk and people like Brian, those are going to be your Dusty Rhodes and your Michael Hayeses, for the next generation. Those are the kind of guys that are going to, try to keep low head, because those guys were like we were. They're fans, and they made themselves up into that. They got to where they wanted to go, but they understand the business. They know what's about. Where I think a lot of the guys it's Hollywood now.
I don't think it's a case of there aren't knowledgeable people there, because if you look at who's a fucking agent there, I mean, you got Arn Anderson, you got Dean Malenko.
But how much power do they have, Terry?
No, they don't. They don't have power. Those aren't the people that are going to be in power in that company. I mean, if
they don't have a thing like the late '80s, early '90s, everybody, you read all the books, you hear stories, everybody praises Pat Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
How much of an influence and how helpful he was. Dudes to help him grow.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those guys that he was affiliated with are some of the best guys we now know as wrestlers.
Right. I mean, it's not a system that's gonna allow.
And I almost wonder, since Vince isn't an on-screen character on a regular basis like he was late '90s, how much influence does he really have? Does he just come and throw his finger? We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. I've heard comments from him, not from him, but people saying that he says that people don't remember what happened 2 weeks ago. Well, that's bull crap. I remember everything that happened 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I follow that shit to the T. Maybe he's getting lazy in a sense. He's getting older, and they are slowly, step by step, migrating this into Stephanie and Hunter doing all the taking over. They're going to be running the show. Do you have faith that those two will almost fix wrestling, mass media wise?
You say fix, I say clean their mess up. I mean,
they're more concerned with the social media and everything now. And like you said, it's a trading company now, so they all that crap they got to deal with.
On one end, I'm not a fan of Triple H on any level at this point, and I think he's a lot to blame for the current crop of lack of wrestlers. But I think he's taking steps now. I think he looks back and goes like, okay, I did everything I could. What did I leave behind? And he looks around and goes, well, I left, a not a generation of wrestlers that can carry the torch. And now he's going to the indies and he's bringing up really good people. His hiring practices for what they've been recruiting has been really, really interesting.
What he needs to do.
With the exception of Karma and Sin Cara, the people that he's got in FCW and NXT, there's some really good people in there.
Sin Cara is about 10 years too late because WCW burnt right through that cruiserweight thing. We've been overexposed to that lucha libre style. I don't think it'll work this time. That he is strictly for the kids, and that's why Mysterio's as big as he is, because of the kids.
Well, they wanted. I think a lot of it was a big F you to Mysterio and say like, hey, we can make another you.
No, they can't.
No, they could, but they picked the wrong fucking guy.
That looks like a Power Ranger.
Yeah, I mean,
MVP with a mask.
Well, here's the thing. It's so in Mexico they work a different side of the body than they do in America. So he's already working literally back-assward from the American style of wrestling. They didn't send him to developmental to figure the shit out. They just put him in the ring, and there's nobody that can work his style. And the idea is to blue spotlight his ass, right?
What is that?
Well, it's a spotlight that's blue.
Well, no, I mean, shut up.
I
find it annoying.
Yeah, they give him a trampoline and a spotlight, and I like what they did in the idea that we are going to spotlight this guy, we are going to make him an attraction, and I'm fine with that. But the problem is, nobody could work his style, and so everybody looks like shit.
Yeah.
In it. The only people they could get were like Primo and Epico, and I think they kind of showed that this guy's not that great.
Yeah. I've never seen so many botches in my life.
I mean, it's sad. He's the Mystery Science Theater.
Well, hopefully they put
No, you know who he is? You know who he is? He's the fucking Glacier of this generation.
Glacier.
He's the Glacier of this
Well,
generation.
then I'd much rather see some snow too in that blue shit.
That would be cool.
I loved on Raw. Did you hear Cody just ranting the whole time? What the hell's with these lights?
Yeah,
I love that.
which is funny because you're pointing out the obvious, which you almost kind of don't want to. Which leads me to think that he's got to be honest.
Well, what if you got a guy that's like painted all blue or turquoise, whatever the color it is, and you can't see him because the strobe light just covers him?
Yeah,
He disappears. It's dumb and it's annoying. I don't think it creates any kind of mystique about the guy because my very first time I saw him, he tripped on the rope jumping over it.
Yeah.
And now he doesn't even do it anymore.
Yeah. And on top of it, I couldn't tell if they were trying to, at the beginning, allude to that he wasn't using a trampoline to jump in the ring.
I presume that they're going to desperately...
But here's the thing. What I want to get back to is that I like the idea that they were trying to put somebody in that sort of a spot. He was the bad choice for it. And what they wanted was be like, hey, Mysterio, we can replace you. We can build a guy and blah, blah, blah. When, you know what, if they wanted a guy that could do all sorts of great shit, wear a mask, not have to talk, but could actually work with people, they should have just fucking hired Amazing Red.
Which is so funny that you even say that.
They should have hired Amazing Red.
Yeah.
Put Amazing Red in a mask and put him out there, and he could have gotten way the fuck over and worked with anybody on the roster.
Who was it they put under his mask when he was injured?
Fucking Hunico.
Yeah, so see?
You know what? And then and he sucked at it too. He sucks now. You know what? Like, you know who would have
I like his bicycle.
It's a nice bicycle. And okay, there's another thing. Camacho. Do we all know who Camacho is? He's fucking Haku's son. He's not Latin. He's not a Latino. Why the fuck are they playing it up? It's like Roddy going out half blackface. It's just not his race. Why is he playing this race that he isn't? It's so weird. That's another story though. I was on a chat watching, maybe it was Extreme Rules pay-per-view, and it was like, oh fucking boy, Sin Cara and Hunico again. It was like, great, we haven't seen this fucking match, right? And I just was sitting there and I was like, why are these two not just being played by fucking Amazing Red and Homicide? I mean, those guys could do those characters and pull it off and have a great match with anybody on those rosters.
Yeah.
You know, Homicide kind of looks like out of shape, but he could fucking wrestle in a wife beater and baggy pants and do better. And Amazing Red is the same build and 10 times the wrestler that fucking Sin Cara is. Mm-hmm. So why are we not just hiring these guys?
Well, I was always trying to figure out what their problem is.
I mean, the only thing I could think of is that they just had to have a Mexican wrestler.
I was always dumbfounded by their issues with Kinshi.
Loki?
Why? No, not Loki. Kinshi. Who the hell is that? Who's that?
Talking about Loki, right? Or did he go by Senshi?
Senshi.
And then who was he?
He was the TNA guy.
He won NXT, right?
Yeah.
What the fuck did he?
He went by totally different names. I just remember. I thought it was Kinshi in TNA.
Okay, he's always just going to be Loki.
Okay. Well, yeah, what was our issue with him?
Senshi was his slave name.
People loved him, and people loved him.
He quit on his own.
Okay, I thought he was released.
Yeah, no. The story I was reading was because he won NXT, right?
Yes.
Because I wasn't watching that, but the story I heard is he won that, and then he immediately was just jobbing on house shows and stuff.
Yes.
And he went, so why build me up and then not do anything with me? And he said, is there like a long-term thing? And they said, we don't really have anything long-term. And he's like, can I just go?
Well, does that mean we're not going to see Tough Enough anymore because they already released Austin's guy?
Probably. What a joke that was.
Did you say guaranteed contract?
And they wound up giving a contract to everybody but the best wrestlers on that fucking thing.
That's
everybody who sucked got a contract on that show.
And if you can make anybody a star, there's no reason. Well, look at the fuck they did with The Miz. Look how many years we had to deal with his dumb crap before he actually became who he was. Maybe they made a star out of Miz.
Yeah.
I like
Miz. They made it and they took it away.
Yeah.